John didn't really want to do anything. That time I made an order out so the kids had some things to play with over at Cottage 8. He said, "We're not going to spend money on this. I'll wreck it right away."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't think he was the most popular.
No. And then I can remember when he told me, he said, they're going to appoint a chief executive officer. And he said, there isn't any reason why I won't get that position. He was sure of it. But, he just had knee surgery.
Did he finally have it?
Yeah. Florence said he was in the hospital someplace in the cities.
Oh.
He had been, well, I think when I last saw him, he still hadn't had it scheduled, but he was seeing consultants.
Yeah, he
someplace.
just had it, I think,
He was in
maybe
bad shape.
last week.
Hope that helps him.
I don't think he's been out of the house in months and months, has he?
Yeah, we saw him.
It was maybe last fall. We had coffee with him at Perkins.
Yeah.
Must have been maybe October.
Because
November maybe.
he never ever comes to church or anything.
Well, he said he
He
can't
has
sit.
real trouble. Yeah, and he has real trouble walking too. After he sits a while, I think
Oh.
things tighten up on him. I think.
We used to, he used to go to Hawaii all the time, and then when he was, part of his, this was several years after his heart attack, but he'd go there so he could keep his summer, regimen of running and swimming
Mm-hmm.
before he joined these health clubs like he did for a few years. But he'd go there in the part of the winter and stay maybe a month. Florence went with once, and then that was enough. But he kept going, and he'd run and swim and just wandered around. So we were going one time, and someone told him, and so he called and said maybe we could get together when we're there. So yeah, okay, we'd do that. And the kids just were little, but they just thought he was the most ridiculous man they'd ever left. And he took us to a place that he thought the kids would like, and it was an interesting place. All the wait staff were dressed up in costume, and it was kind of a scenic spot. But he was going to pick us up, and he'd had a couple drinks, and he had two, I suppose. We were right. He said, we got to go up and look at this lookout over the city at night, and see the view of the lights of the city. Okay. So we went up there, and it's raining, and we're on the windy residential streets in Honolulu like this. And John had no idea where he was, and I had no less. I said, well, John, you've been up here before, right? No, I just heard about it. He said, driving around up there, and windows were closed, and it didn't have any defrost, and the windows were fogging up. And he had a little car, me and the kids were in back, and Karen was in the front seat, wiping the windshield so he could see. And it started raining harder, so he couldn't crack the windows. When we got up there, and it stopped raining. So I said, yeah, let's get out and look around. Oh, I've seen enough. Just get out of the car and drive
all
back.
the way back.
And then he said, now where's your hotel? We were driving on a real busy street in Waikiki. And they had some one-ways. So I said, well, the cross street is right here. Oh, right here? And he takes a left, and there's no street there. It's just buildings.
He took you literally.
I mean, he wasn't drunk, don't get me wrong, at all. But, I mean, he's just as nonplussed about everything. Just totally relaxed.
Oh, Lance.
But he was a real, we'd swim, but not like him. He'd go out very strong.
Boy,
He was
it's got to
out-
be tough on him now to be so late.
Yeah, he was out there way far, and they had these catamarans that they would take people out on for money to do a little thing and let them paddle. And John's out there swimming oblivious to this, and I started trying to get his attention because one of these things was coming right for his head, his little head in the water. Oh, this is his head showing. And of course he couldn't hear me, and these guys didn't see him.
God.
He finally noticed me hopping up and down or something, turned around and got out of the way. We went up to this, one, there's 100 of them. He one time, just a different time, we met him out there, and he said, well, let's go up to I said, there's a bunch of tombs where they buried the old kings in the 1800s, just up past downtown, up in the hills. I said, we can go and look around there. It's public. He said, yeah, and then we can go out to there's some kind of an arboretum up there. Yeah, that'd be great. Karen wanted to see that. We go and poke around these tombs, and it was very interesting from the 1800 end of the monarchy and all that.
Yeah.
And then we went up to this arboretum, and that's a place you just kind of wander on your own. You get a pamphlet and all that, and so I would just leisurely walk around. And John said, "Well, I'm a member of the Minnesota Agricultural Society, and I think we'll probably get, some special treatment." And I go, what the hell's that? So there's this gardener digging in the dirt, under the windows of the little administration building I had there. And he goes up there, and he's a native person. And he's digging, and he's, got dirt up to his elbows and working away. John comes up and says, "Hi, I'm John Stocking. I'm a member of the Minnesota Agricultural Society." Shows this guy his card. And this old Hawaiian just looked up at him, and he looked over at Karen and me, who were just about doubled up. And the guy says, "That's nice." He goes back to digging around again. John thought we were going to get a tour out of the whole thing or something.
Special recognition. You ever watch the show The Office?
I've caught it a couple
Sounds like
walking
it's
by.
kind of like the guy has no clue
Yeah,
what's really
no
going on.
clue.
It sounds like John.
He's so ingenuous. Everything is his face. He says so often. And my kids to this day, this is many years ago. If somebody says something real obvious, then they'll say, "Oh, really?" Which is what John says, no matter what you tell him. "Oh, really?" They were home at Christmas and were sitting around doing something one night, and I said something, and Carrie goes, "Oh, really?" I said, everyone woke up.
Do you drink black? You too?
Oh, yes. You have to, don't you? I thought that was a rule for
Oh, yeah.
Sandy County.
I went and washed my car today, and I went over to Caribou and got some nice coffee
Yeah,
before
they
I went and
get-
did that. Oh, God, I love that Caribou coffee.
You do, huh?
It's dark.
Yeah, that's the
American.
French roast.
Oh,
and some of
you
that's
mean
really-
you get that true dark coffee, no latte or...
No, it's Americano. It's like espresso with a little bit diluted.
Yeah.
It's not just a strong little like that.
Oh.
It's a regular cup, but they're pretty good. You don't need many of those. a
The,
day.
the French roast has got a kick to it.
Yeah?
Some of those,
I went to a bank party, People's
Oh, yeah.
Commerce or whatever, with Audrey Frederick.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
she
did ya?
didn't have a partner. And way at the end of eating and dessert, they gave us, it was not a big cup, about like that, stood about that high, and I thought it was coffee.
Ooh.
So I did sip on that, but they never ever came back or offered you any more. And I thought that was funny, because then the program started, they sit a carafe on the table. But I got home that night and I never went to sleep.
yeah. Wired.
I think about 4:30 I went to sleep. I woke up, it was 8 o'clock. I thought, well, now you missed church and everything.
got
so-
that. So Audrey doing okay?
Yeah.
She's done altogether there. No, she's still there,
No,
isn't she?
she's
1 or 2 days a week?
working Like 12 hours a week.
Yeah. See, Connie works for Karen. So she hears all about Audrey. And then Karen had worked with Audrey all those years too.
Yeah. She's trying to get involved. She, comes to our exercise class at church, but only maybe one day every other week or something.
Oh.
She doesn't show up. But she's not limber at all. It's a
No.
great effort for her to do that. But at least then we go out for coffee and stuff at the bakery, and then she gets involved at least in
Yeah.
being with
I
all
always
of
got a
it.
charge out of her.
Yeah, she was a great gal.
Well, we should talk to Yvonne.
Yeah, because at 5 o'clock I got.
Oh, and I have to be gone well before that.
Oh, good, because I'm gonna go see a chiropractor.
Yeah?
Yeah, my hips are bothering me again, and I went to her once over a year ago, and she adjusted me, and I never had any hip
Really?
pain. Kevin's wife works for her, and it's a lady. She does no jerking. She
Where's
just
that
has
at?
strong St. Francis.
You gotta go way down there? Jeez.
But she just does it with those fingers. Oh, it feels so good. You could just lay there all day night if she would
Ooh.
keep. And then she feels something out of joint and she pushes it back. So
But
that's where
gently,
I'm going.
huh? Not,
No, she don't give me a jerk, so I break 3 vertebrae.
You know, I went to one when I was a kid. 2 times when I woke up and couldn't walk when I was before I even started school. Went to Emmons. And both times he's my folks thought, what's
something
this?
serious.
Polio,
Yeah.
what's happened? And I was old enough to be sort of freaked when your legs just don't go.
Yeah.
And both times he had like a space gun, like we had when we were kids to
Oh.
play with a big suction cup on the end. And he was very nonplussed. This is unusual. It happens in growing. Usually a little blast in the back. And could walk.
Huh.
I've never heard of that before or since.
They still use those nerve guns. Everybody does, even this gal. But you don't feel it. You just hear it, that little buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said this happens with kids in their growth spurts, he says.
Doesn't happen that often, I don't think.
Well, I'd never heard of it. Well, I would've-
Okay, so you started out at Kinder State Hospital in 1959.
1959 as an RN2.
Do you remember what your salary was by any chance?
Yes, I made, oh, how can I forget that? I was wondering if it was $438 a month.
That would have been pretty good money.
Well, no, I didn't. Well, I might have. My take-home pay was $110 every 2 weeks.
All right.
That I remember.
How long had you been in Cambridge before you started working there?
Matter of a month.
Oh, really?
I went right
You
away.
came up from the cities then?
Yeah.
That's where you guys were, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I had made out an application for state work before I ever left the cities.
Oh,
So I had the results back.
So did Harriet Anderson hire you then?
Yep, Harriet did.
She was director of nurses
Mhm.
at that time.
Yep.
were there a lot of nurses, do you think?
Well, not a lot. It was Grace Jacobson, Eva Taylor, and then that guy, what was
Bob
it?
Niles,
Yeah, Bob Niles.
my neighbor.
And Irene Holt. I think Danneman, she did the late shift all the time. She was there.
Was that like a department then, or were you out in cottages? or?
No, when I started, I was assigned to the infirmary.
Okay.
Olive Lofblum was in charge of it, and Ava Simpson. You remember her at all?
No.
Doesn't
Oh.
ring a bell with me
Oh.
too.
She was in charge of the infirmary, and then when she left,
Were any nurses out in the cottages then, or were they just?
Not, well, see, like Irene Holt had 11 and 8, and then she would make rounds with the doctor, and somebody had Olive Lofblum had Boswell and
Oh.
Lofblum, and that was the only nurse coverage they had. They would make rounds.
Right. Our school bus used to loop through there when I was in
Oh,
junior high, and I'd see Bob Niles stopping in front of Cottage One all the time.
Yep.
And running in for, I don't know, I suppose
yeah,
rounds
he
or
did
something.
have some of those male cottages.
Yeah.
And then Eva Taylor was always back like by 12, and
Oh,
Jacobson, I think, had 14.
Something like that,
I
quarter to
don't
eight, something like
remember
that.
all of them anymore, but
Cool. Already.
they weren't the friendliest group when I started,
No,
I'll put it
that's
that
not.
way.
well, did they have,
Oh, that's
like there
right.
were degreed RNs and then there were, what the other kind?
No, they were all RN ones.
Okay,
And then when I came in with that RN2 paper,
well, you were asking for it.
well, yeah, well then, I mean, but it said by experience, you know, you could be 1, and then 2, and then 3.
sounds good.
And so Harriet decided she'd let me be a two, but right away she promoted all those other people.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so they should have been happy. I got them a raise.
Had you worked somewhere before?
Fairview
Okay.
for about 5-6 years.
Were you
Really?
Were you ready for Cambridge State Hospital?
No, I went and applied at Memorial Hospital, and Mrs. Whatchamaduki was director of nurses there, and she later on came to us, and she was in charge of McBroom, I think. No, what was her name? Anyway, I interviewed with her, and she said, "I'm sorry, we don't need any nurses here." Okay. So I got in the car and went to the state hospital. There I was.
Do you remember your first tour?
I don't think they gave me a tour.
Oh, maybe not, huh?
No,
They
I
just-
only went to Harriet's office, and then I went to the infirmary. And I remember my first shift there, I worked late shifts. Harriet did give me lates. And Ava Simpson said, "Well, why don't you go in the baby ward?" Well, you know what that was like, from end to end, and help feed supper. Well,
Oh,
I just
man.
couldn't take, I mean, I got more back than I put in their mouth, you know, it just, that did get to me. And then one of the nurses said, "Well, why don't you go do something else?" But after that, I fed the kids, but that first time was really tough.
Did you do mostly like treatments and
Well, make
meds?
rounds with the doctors. No, we
Oh.
didn't do meds, but we wrote orders, we carried out the orders, we, you know, just really acted like a nurse in the infirmary.
Were you pretty much assured of a job because you were a nurse when you applied for work at Cambridge?
I don't know. I was surprised that I didn't get a job at Memorial. So then I went to the state, and I just figured, well, I wanted to have a job, so. But I think Harriet really didn't have many people that ever came and asked for work there.
Oh,
That was my impression.
you
Was
think
that,
of the
was that a
years.
good wage at the time? Do you remember? I mean, did you think?
I think it was pretty equivalent to what I made in the
Oh,
cities.
okay.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Which would
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
Nurses
Here.
were very underpaid at that time.
yeah, because it was dominated by females. At that
Right,
time,
yeah.
Kind of like
I don't
teachers
think
and-
that it was a big drop in pay for me, no.
I'm
Maybe it
just
was
curious
even
how
a
it,
little more.
in more recent years, if you're a nurse and you wanted to work for the state, you could
Name your
name your
hours.
hours, your location, negotiate your salary.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Oh,
And
yeah.
get a bonus, I suppose,
Probably.
just for signing up?
Absolutely.
I know
Times change.
they do all over now. You get a bonus for just
Sure.
signing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So what did you remember where you went after that?
Let's see, I can't remember quite how long I worked in the infirmary in the late shift, but then Harriet came one evening and talked to me and asked me if I would do the immunizations for employees and patients.
Did she call it the shot lady too? or-
No, she didn't. I don't know what she called me, immunization nurse or something. So I told her I would if I could do it on the late shift. And she said that would be fine. In fact, it worked out better. And when the residents were in bed, it was twice as easy to give them a shot as when they were running around in the day room. I found that out soon enough.
Now, this was real close to the peak population.
Yeah,
But,
about 2,000.
Yeah, because that was 61, I think.
The beds were so close together in 12, I can remember the techs would stand there and they'd kind of do like this with one bed so I could get in there and give a shot, then that
my.
bed went back and then they'd pull this one. Couldn't get in even in between the beds. To
Isn't that
walk in
amazing?
between the beds.
There was enough immunization work to keep you
Yeah.
busy all the time?
Well, nothing had been kept up to date.
Oh,
And so I had to go through everybody's record and write down what I could find that they'd ever had and
Oh,
what
man.
was missing, even though they might have had it, but it wasn't a record of it, I had to give it to them. And at that time, we did Wasserman's, throat cultures.
oh, really?
Mantos, and gave them all the shots. And they had to have a manto yearly, and an X-ray yearly. Remember, we always had.
X-ray?
Oh, yes.
We all had X-rays
Yes,
on
yeah,
a yearly
employees and-
basis.
Residents, because I remember getting an
Yeah.
annual X-ray.
So
Is
then
this kind of what it looked like? That's out of a.
Oh yeah.
Oh, man.
That's is there a year on that?
62. Yeah, here you can even walk in between the beds. You know,
Wow.
12 was
Luxury.
loaded.
How did you,
Were they tied in, Ben? The clients? or
Not
some of
in
them?
12.
Not in 12?
Mm-mm, I don't remember that.
'Cause I remember my first tour seeing the ties on most of the beds. But that was 7, I think. So maybe they were because they were.
Yeah, they wouldn't stay in bed, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
did you go by building, or how would you get away
Yeah,
with it?
I would take a building a night, and then I would, when I got on duty, I would set up these trays of syringes with the, no, I didn't put the stuff in them ahead of time. And just go with those trays, and then just give everybody a shot. Then maybe the next night I'd go here or there, and then I'd have to make lists who needed what, you know, after we got into it many months. But for the employees, I used to send out a list. Remember, every cottage got the list,
Oh.
and then they were supposed to come to the infirmary at 3 o'clock and get their shot. That's
And,
how I got those.
As like today, they probably don't either.
So how long did you do that?
I think I
as a
did that
nurse?
2 years, and I had everyone up to date.
You did?
Hmm.
Yes.
And then Harriet asked me to be,
Jackie, I'm good. Sure.
I think, go over and take cottage 8.
Oh, that's how you
And
ended
6, they went together.
Oh,
8, 6, and 7.
8, 6, and 7.
Yeah. And that
Oh, I
was,
think
Dr.
she's-
O'Shea was the doctor for those 3.
Perimeter building.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And they were all the younger kids.
Oh, 7 was too?
Mm-hmm.
Doug isn't there, huh?
Jeez.
And then
Oh, okay.
I should have stayed being just a unit
Well, no, the,
nurse.
the left.
But then when they wanted
File.
unit directors,
File
well,
the
then I
residence.
signed up for that. But you know, that never paid off at all. That was just, when we started that was just a worthless job, if there ever was one.
Do you ever regret
Yeah, I
Getting
wish
out
that
of
I'd just
nursing?
stayed a nurse.
you'd like to have done that?
Hmm.
A lot less, there were different kinds of headaches, I guess.
Yeah, but it was more, you knew, at least as a nurse, you knew
Yeah,
what
I'm
you were
not
supposed to
doing
do. And
Yeah.
and it just went
I
on and
would
on.
assume so too. I mean,
But anyway, I did
yeah,
that.
They have
Did Donnie, when he did like project work out there, didn't he? sometime? Was that before or after?
He signed up as a carpenter before I ever even moved to Cambridge.
Okay,
Because construction was really slow in the cities at that time,
oh,
only because there, you couldn't get sheet rock, and you couldn't, for some reason,
In
there
the late
was
50s.
no building supplies available.
Really?
You couldn't get cement,
jeez.
everything was
It'd
just,
be interesting to know why that was. wouldn't
yeah,
it?
I wish Donnie would be able to tell you.
So was he working there when
He
you
was
started?
a state employee, yeah.
Okay.
He worked there, I would say, 6 months at the most.
You know, there hasn't.
And that was when they froze wages for state employees, so,
Yeah, exactly.
who was it before
Exactly.
Bruce?
Oh,
Already.
Big
good luck.
guy,
Yeah.
Cotton.
Yeah, Cotton.
He told Donnie, he said there won't be any raises for 2 years.
Hey, the health department came today. That's what that was.
Isn't it nice not to have your
Oh.
stomach churn when you hear those things?
They're gonna review the vulnerable adult files, and Doug's out of town, so Jackie doesn't know where they are. And so.
Oh, this is actually out
There
there?
we go. Yeah. As Terry says, isn't it nice to just?
Gosh, yes. Oh, I told somebody, I said, you know, I have so erased that state hospital out of my mind. I said, I don't know if I can pull anything back to talk to them.
You know, it's, I wonder why that is. I kind of the same way.
Well, why
I'm
keep
missing
it? I think
so
that's
much.
why.
And I don't know how to think about it. I guess that's the
Well,
hardest
when
part.
I first retired, I felt like I, actually drained my brain, and now I had a chance to refill it. It seemed like my
Yvonne's
head was
iPod.
kind of empty.
Now, when you worked out there, were the gray ladies there?
Yeah,
The
from
volunteers?
Edina or,
No, is that what did they wear outfits?
oh,
this?
I don't remember them. I only remember the auxiliary.
Did they wear outfits?
No,
They did not even hats, huh?
not
Street clothes?
Isani County Gray Ladies Chapter, the Memorial Hospital, and its auxiliary.
Yeah, so I thought that was the gray ladies' uniform, but apparently not, huh?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay.
No.
Because when we were doing the state
Well,
hospital.
it's 1961. Right. Oh, Cordelia Dean. She
Oh,
was
sure, I remember that
the
name.
director of nurses who wouldn't
Yeah.
give me a job.
Yeah?
Oh, there.
Well,
Because when we were doing the state hospital exhibit for the Historical Society, we ran across these gray uniforms, like nurses' uniforms. And I'd heard of the gray ladies,
Right, I would
so I
assume the
thought
same.
maybe that was them.
well, I just don't remember it, but it could very well
Did
be.
they do patient things or?
Activity type things, I think.
With
But the
patients,
auxiliary
though.
was really the big
Right.
thing that they did, I think.
Yeah, and
the
they'd
canteen.
raise money and, you know,
And they staffed the canteen, didn't
yeah, probably.
At one
See,
point,
I don't
they did.
remember
I
that.
think they did actually for quite a long time.
they? Geez, we might as well quit. She's drained it all out.
Yeah, I
Gone.
don't remember anybody in those uniforms.
Where's that chip again?
Oh.
Well, I'll show you a picture, I bet you remember. Look at some of those faces.
Oh, this looks like a mighty fine cabinet.
Yeah, okay.
1967.
That must be Bruce,
Yep.
don't you think?
No, I think Bruce is.
Oh,
there.
there's Bruce.
Is it
Who
Leonard
the heck
Lorenz?
is that?
I know them all.
I had a hard time. Oh, is that young
That's Fred Rudy. Yeah, Fred Rudy.
Young Fred.
Boy, that doesn't even look like
Yeah,
him.
Dr. Golitis.
Colitis, that looks like that must
Harriet.
be.
Yep.
Oh, I thought that was me.
No, that's Harriet. There's Bruce. Connie Schruth, remember her?
No.
Oh, I don't know. Who's that?
Vocational department.
Oh.
No, I don't. Here is Turnbull. John Norbert Sinstelen. He was the one that when he left, he told all of us
Yes.
if we'd have saved our money
Yep,
in
we
an
could have-
appropriate way, we
yeah.
could go and live somewhere
Apparently
else.
he lived a very frugal life.
Yeah.
Gene.
Jean Lindgren. Oh, Dr. King. There's Leonard. And this was,
Ed.
Oh,
Wilcox.
Wilcox, yeah.
okay, my father.
Hubert.
Yeah. September 1967.
That's the year I started, and I remember the
Oh.
morning I started. Wayne Koski, I don't know if you remember Wayne.
Yeah.
He was in the educational
Yes.
department. Brought me in there, and everyone gave nice, polite
Oh.
applause. They called it devotions, I think.
Oh,
Morning
yeah,
devotions.
they did morning devotions. Yeah.
So when did you become what you called a unit director? That fateful day when you threw away your. Well, you got back later
Well, no,
on to
you
nursing.
spent some time in in-service too, didn't you? Or am I wrong on
No.
that? You didn't, huh?
No,
Okay.
God, no, I would never do that.
Oh, okay.
I was telling him that after I gave those shots, and I think that only took about 2 years to update the system.
Well, you know, I
More
think
than
there
2
are
years.
2,000 people,
Jeez.
and well, how many employees too? You know, because there's probably
700, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're looking at a city.
Would have been the whole town of Cambridge. Is what it would have been.
Well,
And
when
then
I
some.
And
line
then
'em
some.
up, you know, give over 100 shots in a couple hours.
Were you a good shot giver?
I thought I was. A lot of the employees would tell me that they didn't even feel it.
I would think you should be pretty good.
No one would let me give them a shot today, I don't think. But then, after I did that, I was a nurse supervisor, and I had 6, 8, and 7.
6, 7, 8.
No,
No.
yeah, 6, 7, and 8, yeah. With Dr. O'Shea. She was a doctor for those 3 buildings.
OSE.
And I don't, OSE, I don't remember exactly when that all happened. But then, from there, I went to unit director, which I was telling Terry.
When did that system
Wished I
begin? you
never,
think,
never
roughly?
had done. I
Was that
What was that with Leonard Lorenz? Was that kind of when he was?
Yeah,
So it would have been
I-
about 67, 68, I think, because that
okay?
was just kind of starting when I started
Yeah, I
there.
think Leonard was the one that
Okay.
appointed us, and it was Joe Majerle and me were the first ones. And then
Class of
Floy
67.
Martinson,
Floy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What is it on a
Millie Ravo and Esther Fashbaugh.
Yeah.
were
Oh, they're all
as
in that?
well.
In that?
They're not right
Freshman
away,
class?
No,
but
'cause- well,
little
you
by
were-
little,
Oh,
more of them came, or he appointed more and more.
how did Charlie end up with that mental health treatment service?
Well, I don't know.
business?
He was going to come and take all these behavior problems, and he was going to have a program that was going to not cure, but make them a lot better. And boy, he hired all his own staff, or picked them, and even I remember he hired Barb Lazier. The rest of the nurses, we never even hardly knew Barb. And he ran that program strictly by himself, 24
Now, that
hours
was,
a
that
day.
was federal funds, wasn't it?
Maybe, I don't
Some of
know.
it was for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So they
he,
did. They were able to pay more and do a little better ratios and stuff than a lot better ratios actually.
Yeah, we didn't, as nursing supervisors, we never had to go over there.
was-
They
well,
took
that was
care
both
of
of our first
all
jobs,
their own
yeah.
problems. Well, you were there, yeah.
In 70.
Yeah, and I started in '67 until Project Teach, and then that kept pulling more and
Okay.
more time. We were
But
even
it,
back then. We were co-workers with the Project Teach
Yeah.
stuff.
When you did that nursing supervisor job with 6, 7, and 8, and you made the run? Did you have nurses that worked for you too, or did
Mm-mm.
you were it?
no, was it just the
She
technicians in
she
the
was the-
building?
So you supervised the technicians though,
Yeah,
the psych
Okay.
techs at that time.
right. And then there would always be a senior tech, remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Senior
So
psych.
they I
And
mean, you were
so-
like their administrative
Was
boss.
sort of like their supervisor, yeah.
Okay.
And then they would, tell Dr. O'Shea and I, or have charts pulled, this guy has this, and, I think maybe, he's running a fever. They would go, one of them go with, and we would look at all of these kids, and many of them had to have stitches, probably some rebandaging, just anything and everything.
Would any of those patients in those buildings, would any of them have been able to see a psychiatrist, or just wasn't part of the thing? In those
Not
days?
in
days.
7.
What's your recollection of 7 in those days?
Well, when I first went over there, the number one sticks in my mind is the dining room was sheer havoc. I mean, everybody grabbed food. They didn't care where it was. And this timid guy over here, he probably didn't only got a meal once a week or something if he didn't. You'd have to see that maybe he got some food. But after they ate, the dining room was garbage city. I mean, there was crap all over. Don't you remember
I do
that?
remember that. Yes. Oh, and I
Oh.
remember the smell walking in.
Yes.
First of all.
And these were kids mostly?
These
you
were
said?
teenage
These are
boys.
teenage
Teenage
boys,
boys.
and none of them wore clothes.
Well, they tried the super cloth things
Yeah,
there.
well, first, but first they were naked.
Yeah.
Then we tried to get some of that clothes on them.
Naked because they wouldn't keep clothes, or
No, they
just
wouldn't keep
shred it.
anything on, just shred it, and
Or somebody would shred
and
it.
nobody really ever used the bathroom. They just went wherever, and then maybe they went, and then they took it and threw it up in that
Yeah.
grating in the
Because they had
ceiling.
nothing else to play with.
Oh,
I remember Wayne Koski stopping me. When I was touring, wondering if I wanted to work here, and this makes you wonder. He stopped at the front of Cottage 7 and he said, "We're going to enter this building, and I want you to remember that these are all human beings." And then we, just for drama, But in a way, he was right, because it was. As soon as you walked in, then of course everyone.
well, they just
Just looked at
love to be, if they could touch you and hold on to you and,
Yeah.
I mean,
And then
they
there's
were
In
that-
those
just
days,
dying
would you
for
have to, you could go through the front of 7, like the other two-story
Right.
buildings, and then
then
the
that
inner sanctum,
Right.
door was
and
Door
then
on
locked.
behind that,
a
everything
door
was.
on each side,
No, then each
They were
door on
separated.
each side
Yeah.
was
Okay.
locked too.
a north and a south. And usually there was one of the ends were better than the other. I mean, it was kind of a.
Mm-hmm.
Did like direct care staff, I mean, did they last long in that kind of a building, or how did that work?
Well,
in
they
those days?
did, because in 7, when I first came, we had some really high-functioning, say, men.
Oh,
And man, they did so much in taking care of those younger boys, you wouldn't believe. And they
And
did.
Did they come from another cottage?
Well, maybe they did come
Yeah,
from
I
one.
think they did. Yeah.
And
That
they
was their
came
job.
and they
Huh.
worked there. And
Yeah.
they really took care of those boys. And, I think the staff loved that job, because, boy, they really ruled the roost, and really maybe weren't real nice to some of the patients.
yeah. Back in those days,
No one would
do you
tell.
remember, with like
No.
direct care staff, they would just be assigned someplace. I mean, you didn't have much say, did you?
No, they had no say where they were gonna go. And in fact, then, after I quit being a unit RN, then Harriet made me RN supervisor. So then I worked in the office and I made out all the schedules. But about every 3rd month, Mrs. Kreis and Harriet would say, "Well, move the staff around." So then you just
Fruit
kind of,
basket.
okay, I'll just take Joe, I don't know who he is, and put him over here, and then we'd send out a list, and then on that date, everybody switched and went to another unit.
Was there a reason behind them doing that?
They wanted them to have more experience
I suppose,
with
and
more
not
different
get
kinds
into
of
a rut,
patients.
I suppose. And it would be fair, if you worked with low functioning for 3 months, you knew maybe
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't end
Oh.
up there the rest of your life.
Not by itself a bad idea,
No.
when you think about it.
No.
Oh, the staff hated it,
Oh, yeah, because they just get comfortable
Yeah,
and get to know the routine.
and get to know the people they were
Did you have to
working with.
schedule a direct care staff too? Or the nurses
No.
exclusively?
I think I think the senior technician in each
Oh.
building made out the schedule.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Then eventually you ended up unit director of 2 and 3, units 2 and 3.
Mhm.
When was that then? Or was that, yeah, because that wasn't 7, what was it, 6, 7, 8?
Yeah,
was
that
6, 7, 8.
was.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's when they did the unit
Mhm.
thing though.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that was Leonard who kind of organized that.
Yeah. Gosh, it's hard to remember all
He was
that
still
stuff.
there when I came. in
Rick Harry.
70, but not for long.
Rick Harry was unit
Yeah,
5.
I do, Rick Harry.
Well, he was a social worker before that,
Social worker
Boswell.
before that, yeah.
Rick's in Florida
Yeah.
now,
Where
working
is he?
with sex offenders
Oh, really?
on a contract for state of Florida. After he left here.
Let's see. And then I was thinking, when Harriet Anderson died, what all happened then? Bert Kreis was still there, but she didn't stay long after Harriet died.
No.
Then she left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was director of nurses then?
Was it, well, I had been there a little while, but not a long time. I started November of 70, and then Marie Kapsner all of a sudden started
Marie-
floating
it was
around.
Marie.
Yeah.
But there must have been some
interim.
interim, I suppose, because I don't think, maybe she was hired, was she hired as DON, do you know?
No,
It seemed like she used to be out in the units a little bit on kind of an area thing for a while. But I thought maybe that was to get her acclimated, because pretty suddenly
I
she
think
was,
Marie was hired to be the nurse in charge of the infirmary. But then I
Yes.
think when Mert decided to leave shortly after Harriet died,
oh,
then Marie was the one who had the nursing degree,
Yeah.
and so she
Yeah.
was appointed
That's
director
right. She
of
started
nurses.
off in the infirmary.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yeah, she was in charge over
I
there.
think she's still alive.
Yeah, you know, she never comes to anything, and even though
I
she's
saw
gotten
her in Princeton within the last year and a half.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she hadn't changed much at all.
No, I never have seen her.
Still lives in her big old house there. Her nephew was the CEO at Wilmer, Greg Sparks.
That's right.
Oh.
That's right. I'd
In
forgotten.
fact, I just talked to him the other day too. I asked him what his auntie.
Hmm.
So then units 2 and 3 until the next big upset.
The great leap forward, and
Well, yeah, that was one of the better jobs I ever had when Harriet made me nurse,
Oh, nurse
supervisor of
supervisor.
the nurses. That's not, didn't become popular because of that, but I mean, it was
Oh, I
a
suppose.
good job. It worked straight days, weekends
first time that
off.
happened.
Yeah. I mean, how could you have it any better?
Now you must have had some kids during this time too.
Yeah, I did, but Kevin, I was still working in the infirmary when he was born.
Okay.
He was born in 61. Yeah, I was still in the infirmary.
Did you have to quit and be rehired? Or?
Yeah, quit when you were 7 months pregnant, and then you could, and really, you had to quit,
Mhm.
and then you had to ask for a job again
Right.
after you had the baby. Yeah.
How long would you be out?
Well, the 2 months, and then usually I waited until the babies were 6 weeks old, and then I went back to work.
Or asked to go back.
Yeah, I don't know.
How did that idea of the units and the unit directors? How was that received by the masses?
Oh.
I mean, they always had somebody that was over them in some way, but
Yeah,
I assume
I don't think it.
it was intended to do something, I suppose, though, right?
Yeah, because then you'd have somebody who would arrange all the programming and see that they had the stuff
the
to do it
clients
with.
or
and-
residents were sorted by, unit 1 was young, physically
Right.
handicapped, so kind of categorized, I think, a little more than
So there was patient movement connected with that?
some, I think. But I think
Yeah.
the buildings were somewhat
Somewhat
Yeah.
that way.
too. So,
Yeah, I think, I don't know.
So so your boss then was Leonard or Charlie
Yes.
or what? No, Charlie was
No.
one of you guys. Well, he was in
No.
MHTS, or was he gone by that time?
Then he left, but no, Leonard was our
Yeah.
supervisor.
And then he came back and eventually did Leonard's job, I suppose.
Charlie,
Yeah,
Yes.
then he did, really.
yes.
Yeah, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah.
And displaced John, essentially.
Yeah.
And then, then what happened after that?
How did you get, how, the September 73 reorganization, when you and Rogers,
When
and
we
your
were all-
ascendancy,
Oh, good word.
you know, to
You-
the
you-
SPS and RPS with,
Oh,
and you and
well,
Ro-
that
how did
was
that,
Charlie.
that was Charlie, right?
Charlie did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then for RPS, I can remember he asked anybody who wanted the job that they should let him know or whatever. And I thought he wanted someone with a college degree, but I stuck my name in there anyway, and then he gave it to me. I don't know. But
So you had to apply?
had to let him know you were interested,
Right.
and I think
Same
Ruth,
for you, right?
Yeah,
Ruth
and we were
checked
actors for a long
for yeah.
Oh,
right.
yeah, sure, I
You know,
remember
the
that.
old acting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And yeah, till that. Well, yeah, then till. Well, when did that all fall apart? When Jonathan came?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it lasted 6
Now
years.
you wonder why I drained my brain.
I had a few of those along the way. Well,
Yeah, 'cause
actually,
really
it must have been, it was longer than that.
Almost 10 years.
73 to probably
82
2 or 3,
really, yeah.
82.
82.
It was a long
9
time.
years. I mean, that's
Yeah, we had a
some
good, we had
ways
a good run.
remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Those
then it
actually were
all-
some good years.
Then
too.
it
Oh,
all
yeah.
fell apart.
Oh Lord, did it
Because
ever.
we had Project Teach, and I will have to say, I think Project Teach did more for those kids in Unit 2 and 3 than anything ever could have happened to them.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd go
Well,
in Cottage 7 and they had shoes, they had underwear, they had
They were
clothes.
dressed.
We took them uptown. I shouldn't say we, but the technicians did. And it was a wonderful change when you had one, like 1-to-1 almost.
Yeah.
With those
Where did that
kids.
whole notion come from, or the program?
That was all federal.
It was all
funding.
federal.
Public Law 89-313. I remember
Oh, really?
To this
Yeah.
day, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it had to
Yeah.
force
So
a
it was
law.
it was the education money,
Really?
and all of they were education age, and really it pretty well kept going till cadre or the public school
Yeah. But
was mandated. to take
Didn't
over.
the Project Teach come out of, was that what came out of that court case?
Willowbrook?
No, the one with us,
Oh,
Judge
no, no.
Larson,
No, this was 68, I think, that Project
okay.
Teach started. Well, even a little before that, because Faye Bigelow, remember Faye
Yes,
Bigelow?
yeah.
She was involved in it prior to my getting involved in it.
Okay.
When I moved away.
What
So-
you call it, I was at something one day and I heard him say a name and it was a guy who was in charge of the foster grandparent program.
Roger Corbin.
Yeah. Who does he work for?
He works out of Lakes and Pines, out of Mora, I think.
Where was I when I heard maybe somebody was having a meeting at the church using the fellowship hall or something? And as I went by, I heard somebody say Roger Corbin. I thought, oh my
Well,
God, I
there's a
haven't heard
name,
that name
no.
for a long time.
Yes, Nancy was
Yeah.
physical therapist, wasn't she?
Well,
Yeah. So that was, and then Project Teach was in 7 and 8. Cottages 7 and 8.
yes. And 6 did their own programming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the young girls.
Yeah.
Not as part of Project
Not
Teach?
Project Teach,
No,
no.
well, I think a little of it might have been funded, now that I think about it. I think it was.
Could have been, I
Yeah,
don't remember.
I think, maybe not the whole building, but at least I think part of it was. I remember going over there too and doing
Okay.
the same stuff with.
Did you have any, do I have to do anything except for spending time with Luther in the lawsuit? Did you ever have to run down to the proceedings
No.
in the Welsh case? Did you ever have to
I
get hauled down?
don't
to that?
think I did, no.
I sat in I watched it.
Yeah, I think actually we were invited at different times if we could get away or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember that I did.
Did you get to spend time with Luther?
Well, you talk to him now and then. The only time I really talked to him was, remember when Dale had that farewell party for him at his
At
house?
his house, yeah.
And that was a surprise to Luther. Were you there?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
I remember.
Luther was moving to Alaska.
Yeah. Well, maybe that sounds vague. I know he went to Alaska, and I remember that something at Dale's.
Well, it must have been it. I think it's the only time I was ever there. Yvonne
I
was
think
probably
I
invited
did
all the
not
time.
go.
Oh, I'd never
Yeah.
been there before either. And I said, he isn't the host with the mostest, I'll tell you that. And then everybody started leaving, but before that, he was lighting his grill. Cause he and Lois were gonna have supper.
I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
I was there.
And Doris Nord and I were sitting there on the deck, and I said, Doris, I think we better get the hell out of here. And we both got up and left. So rude.
You know, I don't know if it was rude or just insensitive or just not having a clue, like we were saying before. He just didn't get it.
It was just some people that are sort of,
I don't know.
there's some graces that aren't there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
like
that was
consideration.
You know, like even when he was like up at Norbert's, I'd seen him another time. You know, Dale was just not comfortable as a social guy. You could
No.
always see that he was just.
Yeah.
Well, now, so what are your recollections of the firings of the Delwood? See, I've
Oh, well, what I can recall now is when all came to light.
Gary Gustafson. And,
Then Dale had many meetings with the union and us, and he was trying for us to tell him what to do, what action should he take as a CEO. And I think we pretty much thought that he shouldn't dismiss anybody, and that we should just maybe suspend them or let them stay, and we do a great investigation and da 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 da. But I'll tell you, the next thing we knew, he had fired them all, and that's what caused
and
the
now
big
my
commotion.
recollection is that when we were sitting there, he said, "I'm going to fire them all. I may have to hire them back, but I'm going to teach them a lesson."
Yeah.
And little did he know, once they were fired, it hit the state.
You think that was his
news.
own doing, or was that an
Well,
expectation
I
he
think he
thought
and Lois were.
that was made of
Could
him?
be, but I'll tell you, the union was right there, and no one really thought we should fire all
No,
those people.
no.
And we didn't either.
No, because it was weak. It was a.
Yeah, we didn't know for sure what
No.
had gone on, and
No.
but he did it, and that was the end of Dale Offerman.
Yeah.
And then he took all the professionals and made them spies. Remember, they had to work on the households so that there was always a professional watching what the direct care were
Oh,
doing.
I don't remember that.
That was, when I think of the less than positive memories, kind of the Dale's Death Watch was
Oh, and he
the
really
hardest.
did. He really did get
part.
paranoid. I mean, literally.
I mean, it just went on.
Yeah.
And on one occasion, Margaret Sandberg came for a tour, and we were in lockdown, all the professionals and supervisors until, she had come through, and all the phones were ringing, are they there yet? Are they there yet? And, well, I was it's getting to be 8 o'clock, and all the supervisors and professionals are hollering at me, when can we go home? Gotta wait. And finally I called around, and everybody had gone home, and she had left.
Nobody remembered to tell you.
I told all she just left. She won't be here tonight. You can go home now. But I didn't tell them. She'd been gone probably 2 hours.
Oh,
But don't you
man.
think Dale really did get paranoid? I mean, that he really thought people were out to get him.
Yeah, and I don't know why he made that decision when everybody was sort of against it, but I don't know.
I always
Well, I
wondered
think it
though
was a
if
power thing.
he might have had some help on that decision.
Well, you'd
from
almost
outside.
think that he would have. But wasn't Ed Rico here at that time?
Yes.
Yeah.
See, and I think that was his help. And that's not good help. Because he was a shoot from the hip guy. Who cares what the rules or regulations
Yeah,
say?
that was. Yeah, I can remember when he even said, I think that remember when he brought Cindy, what was their last name? Cindy, she was a unit director in
Fredrickson?
11.
Yeah.
Was their name Fredrickson? And her husband was.
Yeah.
Dan Rouser.
Dan Rouser, yeah. Well, Rico put Dan in the personnel
Right.
officer.
Yep.
Dan didn't know what he was doing from nothing, and
Because he wouldn't let me not certify him as a BA1. That's why you got, the personnel got them.
Oh, really? Well, I know Ed Rico said down in Cottage 8, and he was always down at Cottage 8, that he was gonna put Dan in that position so that Dan would get fired, and then he had the hots for Cindy. Rico did. You never heard that one.
I didn't either.
The people in 8 knew it. He had apparently said it.
But, you know,
In those days when it was going back and forth and what do we do, and I know that Tom Thompson had been enlisted to go up there and assess the clients to determine whether or not there had been long-lasting damage to them. You know, and Tom said, yeah,
good luck.
it can't, you know,
Yeah.
I don't think that can be done.
Yeah.
And Dale was grilling him,
Yeah, nonverbal
Unmercifully,
evidence, how are
yeah.
you gonna do that?
as a measure to see, you know, justifying what had happened. You know, and I mean, it was desperation. And
Now,
then,
didn't-
and then we had the newspaper and the film people
Yes,
come through there,
yes,
all times a day, in the dining rooms.
yes.
You know, I remember,
Oh, you know, an episode we skipped, we should go back to, the strike.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Speaking of the newspapers reminded me, because
Oh.
I think you and I got interviewed on one of the TV
Yeah.
stations.
And I remember after that, it wasn't long after that, a memo came out that no one was to talk to the press unless it was approved by the state.
I don't think it was because of all.
Maybe not. Dale wouldn't talk to him.
No.
He never came early enough in the morning to talk to him.
No, matter of fact, look what I ran across. Whose writing is that? I'd like to
Oh,
know.
that's mine.
That's our strike schedule.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know how I ended up keeping that.
Yeah,
What
yeah, that
what
was quite a how
was
long?
that at the beginning of it, or can't you
It must
tell?
be in the middle. Because there's no days off on there, is there?
Yeah. So I would suggest, I would guess there's some period of time before that.
Yeah. This must be towards the
Yeah,
end then,
it
if there's
must
days
be.
off, because we never did get a day off.
No, we didn't, but I see here
Yeah, they were scheduled.
everybody got a day off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the strike was scary, although I do remember that Dale was of absolutely no help
No, yeah.
in any of it.
Right. I
Just-
relied on Norbert. That was
Yeah,
my.
Norbert was there and he knew what was going on, and, but Dale didn't know. And then he went out with Norbert, I think, to talk to, what was the commotion that was going on down by the old water tower in that direction, and Dale was gonna go and talk to those people. Can't remember.
Striking employees, was it?
Yeah,
Down doing something?
yeah.
I don't know. We had guards catch Ross Bolin trying to do something to vehicles. It
Yes,
might have been,
sugar in
sugar in
gas
the gas tanks,
tanks
yeah.
and
Yeah. Nails on the highway.
then we
Yeah.
brought in all those security
Oh,
guys,
geez,
and
talk about-
then they were smoking pot behind the
Oh, they were just the
auditorium,
most-
and then they were with those young girls, and oh, that was the worst thing we ever did.
Yeah. some
Couldn't keep
security,
track of
course.
them. That was a lot of crap.
That was.
Oh.
Yeah, we ate a lot of good food though. I do remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it was good food.
Even waffles, I remember eating waffles for going to work. I suppose they were frozen, but still tasted good.
George Riedel sent me a picture of him working in the kitchen with his big
Oh, did he?
Mm.
hat on.
Hmm.
I saw him someplace too in the last couple of years.
Well, Norbert's funeral.
Yeah,
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 sure.
he was there. I thought maybe Fred Rudy would be there.
Well, he was out of state. He was in
Arizona.
Arizona
Oh.
or
I think
something.
he's
yeah.
got a place there, doesn't he, or
I
goes
think
there.
so. I think so.
Maybe, but I think his main residence is still St. Cloud, from what I understand.
Now, do you remember going back to Dale and the reorganization? Didn't he write a letter?
Well, that was what we were told. Then
By
that
Jonathan
night,
and them.
when he was told to leave, he and Lois went home and he stayed up all night and wrote that letter. And he named all of us in,
Oh,
That-
yeah.
and he wrote stuff about every one of us. Well, then I remember when Gossett said to me, um, didn't you ever see that letter Dale wrote? And I said, no. And he says, well, here, it's in the bookcase someplace. I'll let you read it. And when he went, that was when he was in that front office, went to get it out of the bookcase, the whole damn bookcase came falling down, and I'm standing there like this.
I remember that bookcase.
Oh, I never did get to see the letter. But you said
God
you did.
interfered. No, I didn't see it.
Oh, I thought you did.
Mike Tessner or Gossett, I don't remember which one, kind of told me what was in it. They'll blame me for involving the press because
Oh,
my
really?
brother-in-law flew helicopter.
Yeah,
You know, and to him, in his mind, that was enough.
yeah, I know. I heard that I was a backbiter. You had to watch me because I was a backbiter.
What was he trying to achieve in that?
Well, he was leaving his for the people that were coming in. His
And he wasn't leaving the system, so he was setting the record
He
straight.
was just leaving his
and after
assessment of it.
justifying why it wasn't his doing that, why this happened, because it was because of folks like
Yeah, and he wrote up about Norbert and Roger and I and let's see, I was trying to think who else was all there at that time.
well, Marcia would have been, but I don't know if she wasn't really that involved in program stuff. So that
No.
might not have been.
No, she never got touched by that reorganization or
No.
anything. She's still working.
She is.
And she travels and travels and travels. She's, I don't know.
Still in Bemidji or did relocate?
Yeah, they still live in Bemidji.
Well, good for them.
Yeah.
I get it. I always liked
She
Marcia.
has a
She was nice
traveling
gal.
job. In fact, tomorrow is her birthday.
Do you still you keep in touch?
Well, used to, but then she kind of quit doing anything back, and so I just didn't send a birthday card this year because I thought maybe it's a nuisance to her. But they were at Donnie's funeral, she and Dwayne. He still gets permanents and has
Does he?
red hair.
He was quite a bit older than her,
Well,
wasn't
he was older, yeah, but he
She's
sure
catching
tries
up.
to stay young. He tries very hard to stay young.
Oh, Marcia must be. She must be 60.
She
Yeah, she
wrote
must
to
be-
me once, and she told, and I think
She's a
she
year or
could
two
have
older than me.
retired. She's gonna have 35 or 40 years of service in when she retires.
So then the first management team came in. Larry McHugo,
Oh, yeah.
Bill Soffer, and
Wasn't though.
Rosenthal.
Rosenthal.
Led by.
I can't remember who was that. Do you remember?
Remember? He was
Don't
the
dare
salt of the earth. Remember, he eventually settled for that big old desk that was down in the morgue practically. But remember when he came, he had a little phone table, and he sat not in Dale's office, but the next one towards
Oh.
your office. On that side, he'd sit in there with that table that was this big, and preside over all that he was gonna,
Oh, he took that extra room that Dale
Yeah,
had.
originally.
Oh.
And he just had a little table I could put a phone and a phone book on, and that's, and people thought, well, he's showing, what common man that he is.
Yeah.
Well, within 2 weeks he was down getting that battleship-sized desk.
He
Pulled
probably
out of the-
figured he was in and out. You know?
Yeah, right.
Once he's gonna stay,
Then he
get
found out.
comfortable here. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a real thing about that, because then there was nothing that he could wait to do and more delight in doing than putting you and I each in a closet,
Yeah.
downstairs.
Yeah.
Just had to move.
And it was a small closet.
It was a very small.
Was that because of that letter? In part?
Well, I think he was out to get us, no matter how or when or if, he would do anything.
Yeah, and it was,
And what he
he wanted
really-
to make, to show
Sure, he made
something's
changes.
Yes.
happening here.
But I think what he really wanted was for somebody to get fed up enough so they'd resign.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was damn near dying from a nervous disease, but I thought I wouldn't resign for that asshole.
Well, and I was sole income at that time. 'Cause
Yeah.
John was doing daycare. So
So that was,
that
yeah.
was about the
That
most
was
well. That was most
traumatic.
traumatic for me until Mike
Yeah.
Testner and Gossett came.
Oh, well, that was even worse for you. See,
Yeah.
that was better for me
Yeah.
than.
Well, yeah, because you
than
kind of
Walt.
got moved
Got
Well,
some
yeah,
relief
he
out of it.
finally assigned me to
the infirmary.
administrative medical services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
my supervisor was Myron Maleka, and he thanked me and appreciated everything I did for him. I tell you, I thought I had died and gone to heaven before
Yeah.
I retired.
Yeah.
You stayed doing that till you were done
Yep.
then, right?
Yep, I did. And then I had the lab, and I had CSR. Well, they didn't have any employees, so I'd go to work early and wash all the dirty dishes and run the autoclave. Had to order everything. The supplies were gone. We had to
But you were
order.
out of
The
the.
clutches.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
it was well worth it.
Plus, you were in the
well.
infirmary, weren't you?
Yep.
Hiding out.
Mhm, yep. Well, Gossett made me move there. He said, I want you in the infirmary. So, fine. But everybody wants it now. I went to the infirmary and I said, you gotta move out of here because I'm coming. Oh, God, they were just ticked as blazes at
They
it.
were?
Yeah. They didn't want to move their
Sure,
stuff.
sure.
Yeah.
Larry McHugh, there was a piece of work.
Well, he finally did himself in to Jim Morris, and Jim Morris reported it, and then he McHugh was gone. And I'll never forget the night before, he was in the parking lot when I was leaving, and he says, I wish you a lot of luck in trying to keep your job, but he says, I don't think you're going to be able to do it. So that really made my weekend. But I think by the next Tuesday, he was driving out of there and he was all done. But he
Yeah.
made a comment to Jim
I remember
Morris
that.
about, Jim said it was something, maybe Jonathan said, and Jim Morris was making a comment about it. He said, who would say that or call somebody that? And then McHugo said, I know, it should never have been done. And he said, I wouldn't do it, and no one or something. And Jim Morris went and told, what was his name? The bad guy,
Jonathan?
Jonathan. And
She really has wiped this out.
Yes. Being Larry had made that comment to contradict what Jonathan said, Larry was told to get lost and he was gone.
But he was so worthless anyway. I mean, that man could ramble.
I never knew what he was talking
No,
about.
or writing about.
No.
I mean, he would
Yeah.
write those missiles, and you
Yeah.
could read it, and you would think, What?
He sent me down to look at an expert behavior management unit in Faribault. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, it would have been Cambridge in the 60s.
Oh, really?
Where was this?
At Faribault.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Can't remember which building, but it was one of his, and that was the
State of the art.
State of the art. I
Hmm.
mean, they had things that were.
I always thought Bob
Unbelievable.
Rosenthal was one of the nicest guys.
Yeah,
Ever
he
though.
was,
He
he
was
was
decent.
made to do some shit that normally he never would have done.
Yeah, yeah,
But he was a nice guy.
yeah. Norbert said in his tape, he's one of the nicest guys that he ever worked with. Best supervisor that he ever
Oh,
had. And
wow, that's
One of
good.
the most
Hmm.
decent people.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, he was okay guy.
So how did? When did Jonathan meet with you guys first? What was that like? Do you remember?
Oh,
Very
that
first
first
time.
morning, remember the pressure?
Did you know him from before?
the-
No, never
conference
seen,
room.
never seen him before.
In the conference room?
Yeah, and we were all sitting there, and then I can remember.
Just him or the rest of us?
No, it was the whole executive committee.
Yes, and then I can remember one of the first things he said, we're gonna take minutes of these meetings and someone's gonna have to do it. Yvonne, take the minutes. I thought, And then they gave George Riedel a real bad time.
Yes,
Remember that
yes,
at that
because
meeting?
he wasn't enough of an advocate.
Yeah, they just, in front of everybody, chewed George out. That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
not.
That George shouldn't agree with anything, that he should question any decision that's made about a client, and never work with staff to get things worked out, because he's
Yeah.
advocating for the.
I'll tell you, later that day, George came to my office and, he cried. He just felt so bad that people thought he'd been doing a bad job. I really felt sorry for him.
Yeah.
And I think he tried to resign from his job, but they didn't accept
Yeah,
it.
I think that's
Yeah.
right, now that you say that. But to publicly humiliate someone like
Yeah,
that,
there
that is
was
just
no
so.
sense in doing that
Yeah.
whatsoever. My land supervisor's supposed to talk privately with people.
Yeah,
And then the next thing he did within the week was evaluated all of us. Didn't even know us, but did our evaluations and just told you just how rotten you were from top to bottom. And not only did he do it alone, he had Rosenthal and some psychologist from Brainerd.
Not a model.
Somebody was there, and they sat there, and Jonathan in the middle, you sat down, and Jonathan just tore you to pieces, and even though your other evaluations were okay,
Yeah, I
that
know.
didn't mean anything, and he made sure we didn't get a salary increase that year, and the whole bit. All of that in being there less than a week.
And in front of these other people?
No,
Nobody Rosenthal and the other guy
yeah,
were with him?
you had 3 people, and
I thought I
by
had
law,
McHugo in mind. But maybe that was, maybe we had different people.
yeah, I think it was somebody that came from Brainerd,
Yes, I
and
don't-
he didn't stay long. People kind of came and
Oh,
went.
yeah, Don Thomas,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll
sure.
bet.
That's
Yeah,
who-
that's
yeah.
who it was.
yeah,
Yep.
Don
'Cause
Thomas.
he was there for, I forgot that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But whatever happened to Jonathan? He lost his job in Anoka. I heard that. Did he leave the state system
No,
completely?
yeah. He went back. He went to the U for a long time, and he had changed his interest vocationally, and he was into things like outward bound and therapeutic. Not really recreation, but something along that line, and I think he ultimately went to work in that field, whether he worked with like executive people or he wasn't like at a therapist type level.
Yeah, yeah.
But he stayed in the Twin Cities. I think he got remarried,
Hmm.
and he sees John Stocking and some of the other Anoka retirees
Oh,
fairly
yeah.
regularly.
When John used to come to church, he would, come up to me and then he'd say, "I have a message for you from somebody."
Oh, just what you wanted
Just
to hear.
to bug me,
Oh, yes, those were tough times.
Well, I wouldn't have wanted to been
Right.
either one of you for.
Well, we could do no right. And we'd gone from, doing a pretty good job to,
I
scum of the earth, boy.
remember once it was a beautiful weekend. We were living at the lake, and Larry McHugo wanted all of the unit directors and me, and I think you, to write down, make a list of all the policies we had. And I sat there all weekend. I just never left the dining room table, just writing and writing and writing. And on Monday, to hand that to him, he said, "Oh, I really didn't want it." He just about choked on a wad of paper because I could have killed him.
What was alarming was you'd get information from direct care staff who had been at the Imperial
Oh,
drinking with McHugo the night before.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
right.
He did come back and say and you didn't know if that was true, false.
Yeah, there was a
Well,
lot of that.
Yeah, and that went on through Gossett too, of course. That was,
Yeah.
a lot of people found out a lot from Gossett out
Yeah, like,
drinking
yeah.
stuff too. But yeah, McHugo and that whole era was a tough one.
Yes, that was
But then,
just didn't make
Then
sense.
there was the Mavis Grunberg Frostbite and
Oh, yeah.
Jim Morris.
Oh yes.
and
No.
then professional
Jim Morris.
unit directors can't be given any responsibility, so we have to.
Right, and then I can remember that one morning it was foggy and Jonathan chewed me out because I didn't have a policy in the manual for foggy days and how it should be handled. How many,
Foggy days.
Yes, it was fog that morning and some kids were walking to programming or something and apparently he felt no one should have been left out of the building and
well, there was a distinct impression that you had to be, you were responsible for everything,
Everything.
that possibly
Absolutely.
could
The
happen.
buck
Yes.
stopped with every last one of us.
yeah. Yeah, and after he left and Gossett came, boy, a lot of those policies were taken out of the manual, those picky
But
Yiddish
when
things.
Jonathan left, then did
Bob Rosenthal.
Rosenthal was
Yep.
the man on the
Yep.
scene in charge, right?
Yep, and he really kept that till Gossett
Yeah.
came.
Because that would have been,
And those were some. We used to meet every morning and review incident reports, and that was a
Yeah.
Mhm.
almost a comfortable routine again.
Mhm.
Of course, then Wally Johnson.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Came.
was a fiasco too.
Yeah,
Oh.
another chapter.
I don't know, I guess I never saw Wally straight. I thought he was okay, but boy, the majority of the people did not like him.
I thought he was
Well,
fine too.
you know,
actually. Away
He
from.
tried to be too accommodating. I think was his
Yeah.
weakness.
That could be.
He didn't want to. He wanted to work with people.
Right.
He should have just said, "We're going to do it this way,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
and be done with it. But
You know, he
we'd
wasn't.
go to
He
him and
wasn't
we'd
a nicer
complain,
guy.
and he'd say, "Well, okay, let's
Yeah,
rethink it."
and Jim Morris and that whole Cottage 11, they just hated him.
Yeah.
Had they worked with him once before or
They
something?
must have known him in St. Peter.
Yeah,
Sure,
that's
they would've.
something.
Yeah.
Because Wally, what did he do at St. Peter? Hendrickson
He was
was a
program
program director,
He was the day program director.
and he was the day guy,
Yeah,
right?
structured program.
And
service.
Charlie must have had
Yep, he set that up
residential
too.
one, I
Yeah,
suppose.
well,
Charlie Johnson.
yeah. Yeah, he was kind of my counterpart at St. Peter when he
Right.
came up. He kind of helped us organize the way back when. In the early 70s, helped us organize the day program.
When Wally went back to St. Peter, he was really much kind of chastened after that experience at Cambridge, and he didn't hold it against anybody except for, well, Jonathan, frankly, but he was a different guy.
He
Well-
was, huh?
Yeah, just.
Well, I think that was tough.
And he was doing a job. He was basically assistant administrator when he went back down there. They found him a job, and he really worked at it and really did a great job. Really.
Oh, good. Because, here, I think he thought they were kind of settled
Mm-hmm.
and built that home in Chisholm
Yeah,
Right,
City
beautiful.
or something.
Yeah.
I never did see the home, but,
No, I think
You know,
he had
he thought-
considered this permanent.
Mhm.
No doubt about that.
Yeah. And it was a matter of certification or whatever, wasn't
ICF certification, wasn't it? Or ICF problems that ended up,
oh, I don't remember now.
it was something. It wasn't JCAH.
Well, didn't Jonathan have to evaluate him?
Yeah, yeah,
And-
and that was.
And there was not even a
Yeah,
clue in
and
it.
then-
The interview basically said you're out.
Yeah, for not meeting, I suppose ICF.
Yeah.
standards.
And I know a lot of people didn't like him and they just, wanted to get rid of him. But, That was the only time I ever had a oral reprimand.
Hey, I got a suspension. I must have beat you, huh?
Did
From
you?
From who, Wally?
Tessner. For lack of an ability to communicate.
Oh, from that meeting?
No, this was well after.
Wally
No, this
gave
was
me an
Tessner, so
oral.
that would have been.
You heard about that meeting, and it was Jonathan and Shirley
Sunquist?
Sunquist from DPW, and me, and Roger, and our famous personnel officer over there. What was her name? Hanson?
Karen?
Karen Hanson, and Wally. And they were going through all of this stuff about Wally not staying and not doing a good job and all this stuff. And you know how Karen was, and well, that was all going on. Shirley wouldn't say a thing, and Rosenthal really didn't know what he was saying, the way I figured it. But Karen went to Roger. She went, and I got up and I said, "You people had this planned." And what did I call her?
Oh, I don't remember.
You are a gull dang, I don't know what it was, and I just blew my top and left. Then Wally came down to my office. He says, "I guess they said I have to give you an oral reprimand for what you called Karen."
I don't recall her winking at me though.
She did. She went, you know, how she had
Oh yeah,
so
she had so
much
much body language.
body language and,
Yeah.
you know, so she was just like, we pulled it off. She pissed me off. Oh, well. That sure was a few
As we have all found out, though, there is life after the state
There
hospital.
is. Thank
What do you
God.
think when you drive through out there?
Yeah.
Well, you know, Donnie was sick for so long, I never got out there till everything was gone, but I think the administration building and the auditorium and a few, but the whole row was gone. It was
Well,
unbelievable.
Have you ever seen that picture Roger took of Norbert in front of
Oh, and I didn't
the
bring it
half
along.
taken?
Well, it was at his funeral. I don't know if you saw it over on the table.
No.
It was
Pictures.
7, 8, 9 months before he passed away, and it's just a fabulous picture.
Because their mane is going down behind
It's
him.
half
Oh.
tore down.
And
It
he
was
was
a
just out
shot.
for a walk, and I said, "Norbert, I'm going to take a
And he's
picture."
got his hat on and his winter coat, and then in the background, in profile over his shoulder is the building.
Oh, for crying
I've
out
got it
loud.
framed at home. I should have
Yeah.
thought to bring
Well,
it.
I
It's
should have
just
too.
a
I have this
fabulous-
one of Norbert, but when
Oh,
he was
yeah.
doing his research for the. Yeah, there's one of the nicest guys.
Yep, he was. He sure was.
So I actually interviewed him, so I have him on tape too. That would have been last
Yeah, I
summer,
gotta see that
think.
one sometime.
And, I was gonna say something about what we were talking about. But it's,
Karen Hansen, yeah, she was a piece of work.
Yeah.
Well, I had the pleasure, of course, of working with her several years later down the line.
Yeah, well,
was she the same?
Worse.
she had more power down there, you know. That's the scary part, isn't it? So by the time Gossett came, you really didn't work for Gossett or Tessner very much then. You were pretty much assigned to
I was assigned to Myron Maleka, medical director.
Who was doing the program stuff?
well. I was
Just you, or
yeah for about 6 months before
after
Tessner came.
after Wally was sent packing?
Yeah,
Then you had the whole thing.
yeah. I was the acting clinical director.
That was before you were OD. Remember you inherited the night ODs?
Well, no, that would have been after. Well, or was that? When did we do? That's when you got some buildings, and Wally got some buildings, and I got some buildings and
yes,
nights.
not the ones we knew, but
right. And then I got
buildings we
nights
didn't
on
know.
top of it.
Oh.
You know,
Oh,
in
strange
those
days.
in those times, you know, dear Bernie Markham,
Sure. Bernie in the laundry.
he was wondering what all this was about. And I said, well, I don't know, Bernie, but, you know, we're gonna have to have much wider participation in the OD thing. And you're OD this weekend. And I had nothing over him or anything. You know, I was just pulling his leg. Oh, okay. I guess I could do that.
Oh,
I thought, well, he knows I'm kidding. He went out, well, he had called MMA and he had, I mean, he took it seriously.
oh, man.
I mean, could you imagine
The laundry
turning the keys over
supervisor.
to Mark?
Oh, lands.
Well, sure, it was a long and hard time.
Oh, those, yeah. Ever since the Delwood
Yeah.
firing, it
Mhm.
never improved.
No,
Absolutely.
it-
Never improved.
I never felt the same there.
No.
Mm-mm.
Because we had some good times before that.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, I mean, 82 to,
99, essentially. Till it's- When Lovren came, things settled down.
yeah,
You know, and I think that's the one thing
Yeah.
Jerry did
yes,
was just keep things constant for a
Mhm.
while.
yeah,
You know, and
Yeah,
then
for
Mike
sure.
Moss, too. You know, they were
yeah.
just kind of a settling influence.
Yeah, and then they let me sort of set up that clinic, you know, and I ordered the equipment and the supplies and, you know, we got that all, painted and carpeted and
Yep.
da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So that was kind of fun, but I never got to see it in operation. So, but
The
it
good
was
news, bad news,
It
'cause
was
you
fun
got to
in
retire.
the infirmary. It really was because you know I worked with Mark, and I said you know he could talk, never a lot, but he would talk to people. But when he got mad, he wouldn't say anything.
Oh, the
So
quiet.
that time they didn't give him any money, he just sat there and wouldn't say a word. And,
What year did you retire?
91.
What was 91?
I've been retired 3 years. I can't believe that. It's gone so fast.
Mine is 2 years this week sometime.
I'm in conjunction with Martin Luther King Day, so
Oh.
it's my,
Oh.
I had,
I think mine was the 3rd or 4th of March, if I remember right. Although if I hadn't left here, I would have
and you know, we always,
quit a
You,
lot
yeah,
longer.
well, you were going to resign just before Gossett came.
Yeah, I'd come back
Yeah.
from San Francisco on vacation and that was it.
Yeah, he
This
told
is silly,
he
you know.
told me. He
Why
said,
do this?
You were all ticked off because of how the team meetings had to be done. You had to write improvement from the last team meeting when the guy didn't improve, but you had to show it in writing. And Terry said he'd had it.
Well, you know, that was in 85, I suppose. Yeah, 85,
I might have been your supervisor at that time.
maybe.
Who knows?
I mean, I
know
came
we
back
did for a while, and I
convinced that was
remember
it.
having to bug you about about teams and getting them done on a timely basis.
Yeah, because I had half
buildings.
the unit. I had to write half of the damn things.
Yeah.
I didn't have any QMRPs.
Yeah, yeah. The
But you guys had many longer years than that of chaos.
but then you retired, but you were in St. Paul when you retired.
Right. It ended up, I worked longer in St. Paul than in Cambridge.
Oh, you
That
did,
surprised
really?
me.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That surprises me too.
It was like 16 years at Cambridge and a little over 17 in St. Paul.
Wow.
You know, and you and I really got along well.
Yeah, I thought we did.
Yeah, I don't think we
Oh,
ever really
we
had we had
Got mad
disagreements.
temporarily at each other.
I'd
yeah.
take your staff, and then you'd take my staff.
Yeah.
Very seldom would go that way.
But no, I know it.
Misery loves company. See,
Yeah.
that's why.
It's But I will tell you, when Jonathan Bulk was there, you didn't know if you dared talk to anybody. You know, it was like you didn't know what you were supposed to do.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
have to
yeah.
say that's how I felt. I don't know
Yeah.
if this is going to be right, or should I just leave that be, or do this, or
Yeah, and what's going to happen that I should have done that
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
do.
I mean,
Yeah.
you just lived in total quandary.
Yeah.
Total.
Well, I hope those years at the end made up a little bit for some of that.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
and the years at the beginning. You know, that's
Yeah, I really enjoyed the infirmary at the end, and there were a lot of nice people to work with there. There really were. You know, Jim David was in charge of that clinic, and you know, Jeanette Rosetter. I always felt sorry for her because, you know, she never ever left her little nest of the laboratory.
Yeah, that's really
She
true.
never
spent her
got
life
on
there.
a committee or,
Oh, yeah.
you know, she just
Yeah,
stayed
that-
right there.
Yeah, lab is her life. Was her
And
life.
she didn't have the best equipment in the world, but it was always so expensive we couldn't afford it. But they were a good bunch of people.
Yeah, I think the majority of people out there were there for the right
Mhm.
reason. You know.
So
We had our problems with your. I told you a Joe Majorley story, didn't I? Where I ran into him in a restaurant like 4 years ago,
no.
and sitting in a booth with Joan, and he was with his wife, and he saw me, and apparently recognized me, and he came over, and he said, "You're the person that ruined my life."
What?
He
That
said,
long? That
you,
made-
and,
just-
you and Bruce Potoff, and you know, I didn't supervise Joe. I had no idea what
No.
he even did, but somehow I got dragged.
Only
so
4 years
here's this-
ago?
yeah, in this maybe 5, you know, time. And his wife said, "Come on, Joe, that was a long time ago." But he said, "You
It's
know,
like
I just want
25
you to
years
know."
ago.
Yeah. So.
At the clinic once, this is 5-6
Oh.
years ago, when they were doing a lot of remodeling there, and it was sort of in an off place. We had to sit at the top of a stairway waiting for our turns. Joe sat there, I sat here, and he looked like death warmed over. He was really sick, I don't know with what. He never said a word to me, and I didn't say a word to him. And I see him at church all the time, and now, you know, he walks with a cane
Yeah.
all the time. And boy, he can really make that old cane go hippity hop if he's gonna meet me at the door or something.
Oh, is that right? He
Oh
avoids you
yeah,
at all
he just
costs, huh?
keeps right on going. But I went to a Bible study group, and his wife was in the group, and I just was very nice to her. She was very nice to me.
Yeah, I think.
And Joe made his own bed,
Yeah, yeah.
so
But see, was it Doug? Was Doug involved in that? Brad Vold? I don't know, and maybe that was the connection, because I know Doug had been interviewed for something, and Joel felt his arm and said, "Yeah, I guess you'll make a good unit director," or something like
well,
that.
it was a young girl. I don't remember her name, but she lived locally. And she was upstairs programming or something in 4. And Joe was there. It was evening hours. I remember that
Okay.
because I got called, and Joe had made a pass at her, and she reported that. And so immediately it had to be investigated. Well, the first thing Bruce said, you gotta, I don't think we fired him right away, I can't
Suspended,
remember.
probably.
He had to be
Yeah.
gone like now, and
Yeah.
I had to come, I was on vacation, and I had
Right.
to come and tell him he had to be gone. And never to
Weren't
come
you-
back on the ground.
Weren't you working on your new house? at the
Yeah,
lake,
it
I
was
think?
painting and varnishing and,
Wow.
And then when I went over there, all those people in Cottage One, we'll say,
Oh,
We're
we just
out.
ran out of tape
Good.
there.
were out meeting with them all the time. Dwayne Grell and
oh really?
Ian's and all those people. Oh, sure they were.